Hey, Safe Mode. Welcome to Hack the Sea. I'm Kitty, and I'm here to give you a brief explainer on what UUVs are and what their challenges are. So essentially, a UUV is an unmanned underwater vehicle, or as I like to say, an unpersoned or uncrewed underwater vehicle. Underneath the category of a UUV, there are two central subtypes. There's the AUV, the autonomous underwater vehicle, and the ROV, the remotely operated vehicle. And the key difference between these two is one is a self-guided, self-contained system, the AUV, and it makes its own decisions and completes its own tasks without human guidance or interference. The ROV, conversely, is usually a tethered system, but either way, it's connected to a human who's helping the machine complete its tasks and go along its guidance. Essentially, what we're talking about here are maritime robots. So why do we need maritime robots? Well, most of it is about exploring or extracting stuff from the ocean. And what we know about humans and the ocean is that if you put a human under the water on a long enough timeline, they tend to die. So the history of the development of technologies for exploration and extraction used to be about putting a suit around a human or putting a crew inside some sort of undersea shelter that would allow them to do the things they wanted to do. And that timeline is quite long. So what you're looking at in this image is an atmospheric diving suit. And that I think is an image from 2014. But more interestingly, the submarine you're looking at, what essentially looks like a barrel with a window on it, that model is from the 1700s. So the history of trying to extract and explore the ocean is quite long. The other thing that we tend to do under the ocean, largely brought on by a number of world wars, is we do tend to do fighting underneath the sea. And what you're looking at here is an example of an unmanned torpedo. So the way this works is this person sits atop this torpedo, and in front of this person is a timed warhead. And what they do is they guide the torpedo to its location. The driver then drives the manned torpedo over near the enemy ship, detaches the warhead, and then drops and runs or swims as fast as they can to get away. So presumably people signing up for this job probably drew the short straw, but this is much of what drives the development, at least for militaries, for the creation of a UUV, because this is a high-risk environment. So what we're asking to do at Hack the Sea is for you guys to start thinking about ways to create some battle bots. And so I have three essential easier and harder design sets that you want to start thinking about if you want to play next year at Defcon 29. So the easier way to think about this is to tether. And so if you wanted to engage in your battle and you wanted to tether your bot, you certainly have a lot of access to power, you certainly have a lot of access to data, and your maneuver capability is higher. But this is the easy model. And in all honesty, I would be surprised if we allowed people to operate tethered in this way. The harder challenge, and the one I think we want to see you guys do, is the untethered remotely operated robot. But we will come out with guidance on that challenge pretty soon. But the problem with that untethered remotely operated robot is that under the water, radio frequency doesn't work. And so you're pretty much left with sound and maybe light. And so good luck on that, and we look forward to seeing what you come up with. Another challenge that you want to think about is where on the water do you want to be? And we will have separate challenges for that. But essentially there are three general positions. There's your floaters, there's your swimmers, and there's your bottom crawlers. So your floaters will obviously have more access to light and potentially communication. Your bottom crawlers will be in their most austere position, but they will at least be able to locate where they are in the water because they can touch the bottom. And interestingly and quite challengingly, there are your free swimmers, and who even knows how you're going to figure out how to orient yourself in that condition. The other thing that you need to start thinking about is how to power it. So the way the military powers things, in particular with submarines, is either nuclear power or diesel electric. These are probably not two categories you'll be allowed to use. So I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. That is about it for my explainer on UUVs. I didn't want to take it on too long, but I do want to say that I know that you see me wearing a bow tie, and that bow tie is really because I want to dedicate this talk to a friend, a colleague, and a mentor, Will Bundy, who passed away this last December. He was a huge part of the Naval War College's move toward innovation, and he was a big proponent of thinking about all sorts of unmanned autonomous systems. And so I just wanted to say thanks, and we miss you. And now that that's done, I figured I would have a little fun at the back end of this video. So I tried to think about how to work in some sort of reference and a tie between a cocktail and this video, and I couldn't, so we're just gonna make a cocktail. So what you're gonna need, let me move my camera, in order to make a Manhattan in the style that I make a Manhattan, is you're going to need some bourbon, and you're going to need some vermouth, you're gonna need some bitters, some cherries, some ice, and a way to stir it. Let's give it a shot. Okay, so I tend to make a pretty stiff Manhattan, so I just want to warn you in advance, if you're following my proportions, be prepared for a stiff drink. So you're going to start with your bourbon. I have here something I bought from a local distillery, Filibuster. It's a really nice standard bourbon. They call it a whiskey because they age it in a different way. So you're going to take 2.5 parts of bourbon. That's 1, 2.5. You're going to grab some vermouth, a sweet vermouth. I tend to use this thing called Carpano Antica, which is considered an Amaro, but that's fancy words. Just get a sweet vermouth. You'll learn over time what your favorites are, and I do 1 part of that. And then I'm going to put my bitters in. So I go with 2 different kinds of bitters. I go with Angostura bitters, and then a little bit of what's called tiki bitters. But really, you should play around as much as you want with the bitters until you find out whether you like that deep Christmassy flavor or something more peppery, but that's entirely up to you. Put a little bit of this in here. Healthy dash of Angostura bitters. And the thing that I find that's most interesting and important and also controversial is I believe strongly in allowing the flavor of the cherry to come into the Manhattan. And so often what I'll do when I buy my cherries, is when I put the cherry in the drink, there, see this is a tethered cherry. And I put just a little bit of the cherry juice into the Manhattan to give it just a little bit more cherry flavor. In the real world, you should be stirring this for somewhere 20 and 30 seconds to get that temperature way down there and to mix all the sugars together. And I have forgotten my skimmer, so I'll just put my finger down here. And that's how you make a Manhattan. I will say, for anybody who makes it all the way to the end of this video, hit me up at Defcon 29 and I will definitely help you make your own Manhattan. I look forward to seeing you guys. I look forward to seeing the battle bots. Take care.